Friends, today we're going to have a very important and interesting conversation. Make yourselves comfortable because I'm going to take you through a series of facts, some of which, of course, you already know. But today we'll put them together into a clear and understandable sequence. Very often people tell me that the United States of America did the same thing as Russia. They ask, how is the war in Iran different from the war in Ukraine? I'm happy to answer that question because there is a difference. The second question that is always asked is, what will happen if Trump fails to change the regime in Iran? What will happen if he, as people say, loses? Here I want to immediately answer that Trump has never set such a goal. Trump has said many times that it would be very good if the Ayatollahs fled from Iran and the people themselves would decide what form of government their country would have. Yes, Trump sets tough conditions, but he says he won't back down until Iran agrees to the terms we are offering them. But never, I repeat again, never has he said that the goal of our military actions is regime change. Let's break everything down from the beginning up to today and try to think about how today will affect the biggest event of this year, namely the November congressional elections. Iran has threatened the world for decades with a nuclear nightmare, terrorism, and oil blackmail, and now President Trump says, enough. Operation Epic Fury is underway. Today we'll break down, point by point, how these events will affect the November elections. If you support a strong America, stay until the end to find out why Trump will make us winners again. Iran has been preparing for the first strike for a long time. Thousands of ballistic missiles were aimed at Israel and oil facilities in neighboring countries, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, and others. Russia actively supported this plan, fully understanding that in the event of such a war, the price of oil would soar to $150 per barrel, which would naturally bring Moscow considerable profits. The Iranians had hidden a significant part of their production in advance, deep in the mountains, believing that such facilities could not be destroyed even by the most powerful bombs. Many launchers, Russian, Chinese, and their own, were camouflaged and hidden underground in bunkers and tunnels. They expected that even after a retaliatory strike by Israel and the U.S., they would still have enough missiles to inflict serious damage on several American bases in the region and cause maximum harm to civilian targets in Israel. By the way, they openly admit that they are targeting civilian sites. That's the main difference. The Israel-U.S. coalition might accidentally harm civilians during precision operations, and barbarians are those who deliberately target the civilian population, equipping missiles with warheads specifically designed to kill as many innocent people as possible. The main difference between Russia's war in Ukraine and the U.S.-Israel war against Iran lies in their approach to civilians. We, the U.S.-Israel coalition, do not strike hospitals, theaters, kindergartens, markets, and residential neighborhoods. Our goal is to destroy Iran's military infrastructure, deprive the regime of the ability to threaten its neighbors and the world, make Iran less aggressive, and ultimately achieve peace through strength. We aim to win the war with minimal civilian casualties. Ukraine acts fundamentally differently. It deliberately attacks and terrorizes the civilian population, strikes on residential buildings, schools, maternity hospitals, theaters, hospitals, and markets are not accidental mistakes but a deliberate strategy. The goal is to kill as many civilians as possible, to break the will of the people, to sow terror, and to force Ukrainians to surrender out of fear and despair. Russia uses terror against civilians as a tool of war to demoralize and break the resistance. This is a fundamental difference. One side, whether it's Russia, Iran, Palestinian defenders, or attackers, wages war against the civilian population, terrorizing and destroying civilians as part of their military doctrine. The other side fights against the aggressor, minimizing harm to the innocent. What did America want from Iran? For Iran to stop being the main threat to the world. Trump warned from his first term The nuclear program, ballistic missiles, and support for terrorists like Hezbollah and the Houthis are a red line. By the way, all U.S. presidents said the same thing, but when the Iranians crossed the red line, nothing happened. We wanted Iran to give up nuclear weapons for one very simple reason. Because, unlike everyone else, they repeated every day, and we believed that as soon as they got it, they would start using it on planet Earth, to use it on our shared planet. And we also wanted Iran to stop funding global terrorism. So Iran and Russia are two, well, Russia is probably the first, and Iran, so to speak, is the second. These are the sponsors of terrorist activities around the world. Unlike Obama, who preferred Iran over Israel, Trump strengthened the partnership with Israel, the only country in the world that gave the U.S. more than it received in money. Through intelligence, through technology, through innovation. Why did America get involved in the war with Iran? For years, Iran attacked our soldiers. Through proxies, it threatened to close the Strait of Hormuz, putting 20% of the world's oil at risk. Trump, as a true businessman and leader, understood it's better to strike first than to wait. This isn't aggression, ladies and gentlemen. This is peace through strength. Peace through strength. Israel became a key partner, proving itself to be a highly effective and reliable ally. Israel took on more than 50% of the tasks, and the U.S. provided equipment and missiles. By the way, it was an exchange of equal value. Israel provided intelligence data and technological innovations. Obama, on the other hand, didn't want to help Israel, preferring Iran. He even forced him just to humiliate that annoying Bibi. He made Netanyahu enter the White House through the back entrance, through the kitchen, and wait by himself, the president himself. We say the first black, but actually he's simply the first. His mom is Russian, his mom is white, and his dad is black, mixed race. The first mixed race. President of the United States of America was having dinner with his family. To humiliate Israel. What tasks were assigned to the military? The tasks are clear and achievable. To destroy nuclear facilities, ballistic missiles, drones, the fleet, and weapons production. To weaken the Ayatollah's regime so that the Iranian people see a chance for freedom. To destroy the mine layers in the Hormuz Strait so that oil can flow freely. Trump called this operation Epic Fury. And this is truly epic strength. A quote from Secretary of Defense Hegseth, "We are making Iran incapable of fighting. This is the main task that the president has set for our armed forces." To what extent have these tasks already been accomplished? By the 12th day, brilliantly, Iran's fleet has been destroyed. 16 mine layers have been sunk. Nuclear facilities are in ruins. Missiles and drones are not flying. Trump himself said, "There's practically nothing left to bomb." We're ahead of schedule, just so you understand. We're weeks ahead of the plan. Like the saying goes, the early bird catches the worm. America got up early and strong. 5,000 targets have been destroyed. Israel has proven itself to be a highly effective partner, taking on more than 50% of the workload, in exchange, as I already mentioned, for American equipment. Yes, and missiles, of course. Did the objectives change during the military operations? The objectives were adapted for maximum efficiency. That's a sign of Trump's genius. Initially, the focus was on complete disarmament and weakening of the regime. Now the priority is the complete destruction of military power so that Iran can no longer pose a threat. Change of leaders in Tehran, Khamenei's son. It doesn't change the bottom line. We will make sure that the new regime makes concessions. Because Trump is a master negotiator. Break it, then negotiate. No chaos like under Biden, only calculation. What are the chances that America will succeed in accomplishing its goals? Chances? Well, let's put it this way, 100%. But since I don't like to say 100, let's say 99.99999, and a few more nines after that. The U.S. dominates in the air. Iran is losing everything, the fleet, air defense, missiles. Trump, we've already won in many ways, which is true. We've already won in many ways. Experts like Senator McCormick, for example, say the goals are close to being achieved. What Iran is doing and will continue to do. Iran is desperately resisting. It is mining the strait, launching drones, calling for jihad. But these are its death throes. Their capabilities are dwindling. They are hiding the remnants in cities, using proxies. Trump predicts it will end soon. He says, very soon. There is almost nothing left. So what options do we have? Option 1. Declare victory. Stop the strikes. Because the objectives have been achieved, Iran is broken. For the next 10 to 20 years, they won't be able to produce anything that they almost had ready now. The second option, to achieve political concessions, that is, not to stop the bombings and the offensive until a nuclear agreement is signed. The end of terror and bargaining during the war, that is, to leave the existing clique or government or group in power, and to hope that with the help of inspections and so on, we can hold out as long as possible so that they don't start all the same things again. Third, if it is necessary to continue until complete capitulation, but Trump will not allow an endless war. A quick victory is the best option for America's prosperity. And by the way, if the truth matters and you want more people to hear it, then hit the bell. Right now. The YouTube algorithm will see the activity and promote the video. Subscribe, share your opinion in the comments, especially if you have a question about the war. Your voice, ladies and gentlemen, matters. Regarding the American voters' attitude toward this war, patriots support it. Republicans see Trump as a defender. Polls show that the core base of the GOP, the Republican Party, is in favor. If it ends in 3 weeks, there will be excitement. Trump will be a hero, his ratings will soar. If it drags on, the support of the so-called base will remain because people understand this is about security, this is about cheap fuel. Fake media are sowing doubt. But true Americans stand with Trump. Reality shows that the people are, let's say, independent and moderate. We've already talked about the base. Trump is skeptical. CNN and Quinnipiac polls indicate that about 53% in one poll and 59% of other Americans are against the war overall. And even among Trump supporters, among those who fear a prolonged conflict, remembering Iraq and Afghanistan, if the war drags on for months, Trump could lose the support of independents. That means 61% of independents are against it, according to NPR. A poll that could lead to the Republicans losing 10, maybe even 12 seats in the House. So Brookings says that the Democrats could take control of the House, especially if on top of a prolonged war, the economy suffers. What impact is this war already having on life in the United States of America? A temporary rise in gas prices, but it's an investment in the future. Trump says a small price for security. Soon, he says, prices will drop lower than they were. Stocks will recover. The economy will flourish. Well, God willing, there's a saying, every cloud has a silver lining. War will bring prosperity. If prices stay high for a long time, well, right now it's about $3.48 to $3.58 per gallon. They've gone up by 15, maybe even 16% in a week. The public will react negatively. Polls show that 55% of the population see this as a hit to their wallets. Inflation could rise again to 3 to 4%.
9, как при Байдене, 3-4%.
What will increase dissatisfaction among the middle class and independents? Trump supporters may tolerate it, seeing it as a necessity, but the people, especially in swing states, may turn away. Like in 2006 with Iraq, when the Republicans lost seats, mostly because of the war and the economy. How will all this affect voting in November? A quick end to the war, triumph. The Republicans will sweep the opposition. Trump is the savior, a prolonged war. The ratings are falling. Right now, support for the war, by the way, isn't that high, from a third to half of the population, according to NPR and Fox polls. It will reduce the willingness to vote for the Republicans if it continues. Bodies, coffins, as they say, keep coming. Even if it's not a lot, they're still coming. And the economy isn't doing very well. A quick end would immediately boost the enthusiasm of the GOP base, the Republicans. But the reality is this: even supporters might cool off if gas prices don't go down. What is the main thing that will influence the outcome of the elections in November? Reality. Well, that's according to Brookings and Politics and the White House's approval rating. It's the economy, number one. Inflation, gas prices, jobs at risk because of the supply chain. Second, it's the war. If it drags on, it's a minus for the Republicans, loss of the House. Well, there are 49 to 50 Senate seats, according to forecasts for the GOP for the Republicans. Other issues, immigration. The wall helps, but it doesn't solve the problem. Abortion divides people. Climate is secondary. Save America Act. This is so that you have to show ID in order to vote. Trump insists, the Democrats resist. If it's passed, it will mobilize the base, meaning the Republicans. Well, probably 5 to 10% more people will come to vote if they see that the voting will be fair, but it might scare off independents and Democrats. The press constantly shouts about voter suppression. It's clear why, but they keep shouting. Everyone assumes there's no smoke without fire. And potentially, if it's not passed, that's a loss of 5 to 7 seats. So, war and law and the economy. The war is directly connected to the economy. A prolonged war, first of all, is bad. What's gathering is also called clouds on the horizon. Secondly, the economy. And secondly, nothing is working out. They're trying, but the Republicans aren't doing anything. They can't achieve anything. They're not putting anyone in jail. And the same mess continues as before. Why did we elect them? Well, people are never illogical. Not illogical. Not. How can I put this more precisely, right? Illogical. Illogical. Brief conclusion. America under Trump wanted peace and security from Iran and is achieving it. Tasks are being done excellently and success is highly likely. Iran is weakening. War, whether short or prolonged, leads to victory. Either way, the voters support the leader. The economy and the Save America Act, this is the key to a November triumph. Reality is more complicated. Polls show 53 to 59% are against the war. The economy is under pressure. That means oil, gas, and gasoline have increased by 16% in a week. The Republicans risk losing the House. The House of Representatives, the lower chamber of Congress. But a quick end and a strong economy could turn things around in favor of the Republicans. A detailed overview of the differences between the war in Iran and the war in Ukraine. The war is not a coalition. The U.S. and Israel are conducting a targeted military operation against the regime's military infrastructure, nuclear facilities, missile bases, weapons depots, the fleet, launchers, and drone production. The goal is to deprive Iran of the ability to threaten its neighbors, Israel, and global oil routes, to force the regime to make concessions and reduce its aggressiveness. This is a war against the military machine, not against the Iranian people. In Ukraine, Russia is waging a full-scale aggression against the entire country. Its goal is to destroy Ukraine and Ukrainian statehood, to seize territories, break the resistance of the people, and subjugate Ukraine. Russia does not hide that it considers Ukraine as part of its historical territory. But Ukrainians say the opposite. Russia is part of our historical territory. Ukrainians are seen as misguided Russians who need to be re-educated, or if that doesn't work, destroyed. The U.S. and Israel use precision weapons, giving advance warnings about strikes whenever possible. They avoid striking hospitals, schools, kindergartens, markets, theaters, and residential neighborhoods. Civilian casualties are possible in any war, but they are neither the goal nor the strategy. The coalition minimizes civilian casualties to avoid giving Iran moral arguments and to maintain the support of its allies. Russia in Ukraine deliberately and systematically uses terror against the civilian population as its main instrument of war. Strikes on maternity wards, hospitals, schools, theaters, markets, residential high-rises, kindergartens, and energy infrastructure are not mistakes, but a deliberate policy. Russia bombs civilian targets to spread fear, break the will of the people, and force Ukrainians to surrender or flee. To demoralize the army and the population, mass killings, torture, deportation of children, destruction of cities. This, gentlemen, is not a side effect but a strategy. The coalition in Iran is fighting to defeat the military threat and restore stability in the region. We want Iran to become less aggressive, to abandon its nuclear ambitions, to stop supporting terror, and for the war to end as soon as possible. Russia is fighting in Ukraine to destroy Ukraine as a state and as a nation. It uses terror against civilians as its main way to force capitulation. Russia is not seeking a quick end to the war. It benefits from prolonging the conflict, destroying infrastructure, and keeping the population in constant fear. This is the fundamental difference between a war against a terrorist regime and a war aimed at destroying an entire people. Friends, America under the leadership of Trump will crush the threat of Iran, force the regime to make concessions, agree to nuclear control and terror, and bring stability to the Middle East. Fuel will become cheaper, inflation will go down, and life will return to prosperity. As the president said, we will make America great again and even better. I personally believe in this. If you agree, like and comment. We will make America great again and even better. See you next time.